BCBC Diaries. It's a new concept that we have cooking, partnership with Breeders' Cup. And what we're going to do is cover the qualifying for the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, not unlike the way I used to cover the BCBC and another tournament, the NHC, with my old employer, Daily Racing Form. But we're going to do it rather than with words. We're going to do it with pictures and with video. And all the way along, we're going to try to tell the best stories that are of people looking to chase that big prize that comes with winning a Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. Happy to bring in one of the players we're going to be checking in with throughout this season. He'll be playing in our Horse Player Happy Hour events. He'll be playing in other qualifiers as well. A man who is very well known in handicapping circles as somebody who takes his own detailed trip notes and approaches his form study that way. I've had the pleasure of knowing him since he was a very young man, hanging around Santa Anita. Really very grateful to welcome to the airwaves Tyler Hoffman. Tyler, how are things?
I'm doing great, Pete. It's great to be back with you, back recording stuff, and excited about what we're going to be doing this year.
Let's talk about your origin story in the game, because yours is a pretty classic one. I've interviewed probably more horse players than anyone in the world, and there is a common theme among them very often, being introduced to the game by an older relative. I think that's appropriate in your case.
Yeah, that'd be by my dad, and he was introduced to the game by his dad, so it goes back 2 or 3 generations. And I grew up going to Santa Anita Park. That was the home base, and then in the summer we'd go down the 5 freeway southbound to Del Mar and vacation down there, and come back for the championship meet in the fall. So I've through and through have loved the game.
Let's talk about your experience in the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. It is an event you've participated in, but it sounds to me from talking to you off air like you have some unfinished business in this event potentially.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've played in the event myself in my name probably 4, maybe 5 times at this point. I don't remember the official count. But my dad was the one who first started playing in it. And so we oftentimes just kind of played in his name. Obviously, he had more of the bankroll than I did at the time for obvious reasons. And we had a lot of fun with it, a lot of success. There was a great run that he had back in, I believe it was 2012. He got as high as second going into the Breeders' Cup Classic before ultimately finishing 7th. So we've been knocking on the door for many, many years in the tournament, and hopefully one of these years we'll take it down.
What would it mean to you to do it in your own entry, sort of taking it to the next level?
I think the biggest thing for me that it would mean is that we finally have won a major, and winning it in my name, I think would give my dad an immense, prideful father-son moment. Obviously, he would tell you it didn't matter what I've done in my entire life. He's always wanted the success for myself and my brothers. There's nothing more prideful for him than us succeeding, especially in a game that, that he's taught me so much, and I've learned so much from him and all the handicapping principles he's instilled in me. We have an old family joke that, if one of us disagrees on a race, it's just the other side of our brain talking. And I think that'd be very, very true if my entry ever won in the BCBC.
That's great. Give us your basic stats. How old are you? Where do you live? And what do you do for a living?
I'm from Pasadena, California. I am 32 years old. My day job is I'm a product manager for a construction company, and my secondary career is playing the horses.
Love that. And very curious to talk to you a little bit more about your experience in the Breeders' Cup as somebody who grew up around the game. We can go back a little bit to your super youthful days for your first Breeders' Cup memory I know you want to share.
Yeah, so 2012 Breeders' Cup Sprint, Triniberg ended up winning it that day. The Lumber guy ran second. And that was probably the biggest hit at the time I can remember my dad and I ever having, especially in the BCBC contest itself. It was a race we were excited about all day. We got the price we wanted. And that was a thrill of a lifetime yelling down the stretch. I'm not sure even the ownership group was yelling louder than we were that day.
What were those emotions like? Just boiling over with excitement watching this horse run down the stretch?
Oh, it was such an emotional high, and then trying to calculate how much we actually won in the race because the wheel pace had gone up even higher than when we placed the original bet. So it was funny watching us do mental math and having to carry the carry the one, so to speak.
What did end up happening? How much was that cash for?
That was cash was for a little over 30,000 at the time. That's what vaulted us into the top 5, and ultimately got us as high as second before we ultimately didn't quite hit the Breeders' Cup Classic that year. But it was a heck of a thrill and a heck of a payday at the time.
Not bad for a 20-year-old getting to hang around on the coattails. But I know that you've continued to play and have success in the Breeders' Cup. I know you have another memory, a little bit more recent, you wanted to share as well.
Yeah, back in 2016, there was a Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. For those of you who remember, Sandy at that time was still running it down the hill, and obviously won the race wire to wire for trainer Philip D'Amato. And was the horse who ran second. That was another big win bet exacta play, but it wasn't so much the amount of money that we won in the race, though it was a nice 5-figure score. It was more the fact that we had chased obviously for like 4 or 5 years, and we're probably down all the money that we made back at the time. And I loved obviously that year, and I wanted obviously to win so bad, and was so happy that he got his nose down at the wire at the right time, because was probably better that day. But as we know in turf racing, it's all about the trip.
Exactly. There's no line to cash for My Horse Was Best, but he had a trip. It's all about getting that nose down at the wire, like obviously did. I think he was cutting back in there, right? That's that angle we always talk about.
He was. He finally abandoned the Breeders' Cup Mile. Thank goodness.
Tyler, really look forward to talking to you. Any specific targets you have in terms of places you definitely want to try to qualify for this BCBC, or are you just sort of taking it as it comes throughout the season?
It'll be a little bit online. We'll be starting to chase some of the more of the online BCBC qualifiers on horse players. I'll be definitely playing in the Del Mar contest, which I think offers a few BCBC seats there. So that'll be a good opportunity to chase stuff. So we're going to focus on that as we get into the summer.
We'll follow you throughout the year. So great having you today and for this BCBC Diaries project. Get ready. I want to see some selfies of you and your dad watching races and getting some good reaction videos. I want to recreate some of the magic we've been describing.
You got it, Pete, of course.
Let's next get to a man who's fulfilling the role of the up-and-comer, the person who has not played yet in the BCBC, but who has it as a big goal. He's done a great job for us the last couple of years covering racing over at InTheMoneyPodcast.com, various circuits. Jackson Muniz. Jackson, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Pete. I'm happy to be here. I'm a little jealous of you over an Ascot, but we're doing okay out here too.
Yeah, California is not such a bad place to be. That's your home base?
Yeah. So kind of a dead period right now with Santa Anita ending on Sunday, and now we got Los Al a couple weeks, and before we know it, it'll be Del Mar time.
So. And I know Del Mar, one of the places you'll be looking to focus on when it comes to your Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge qualification. Give me a little background about yourself, Jackson. What is your current job? How old are you? And where exactly do you live out there in California?
So I currently live in Orange County, so I'm kind of right between Santa Anita and Del Mar. I'm about an hour from each of them. I'm 24 years old. Right now I work for a timing company. So we work track meets, cross-country meets, 5Ks, 10Ks, that kind of thing. So I'm one of the head timers for that company. And I actually found out pretty recently that the company we buy equipment from is the same company that Churchill Downs buys all their cameras from. So I thought that was pretty cool to find out. And I've been doing it for a few years now, and I just recently found that out. So I thought that was pretty cool. They use the same photo finish technology.
Tell me about your relationship with the Breeders' Cup and the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge specifically. Am I correct? You've not played in the BCBC yet?
I have not. And honestly, I didn't even know what it was until about 2 or 3 years ago when I started listening to your guys' show, and you guys were, you guys talk about it all the time, how great of a contest it is. It's probably the best opportunity there is. And especially for the big money contests where you can bet $10,000 on a win bet and not affect the pari-mutuel pools at all, which is a big difference between a lot of these other big time contests. So that's the big appeal, plus the $700,000 prize that comes with winning it. That'd be pretty cool too, I think. So that's pretty appealing to me.
I know that you're interested in trying to get in through our Horse Player Happy Hour tour, but when it comes to your overall plan to qualify, we haven't talked about this. One of the things we're going to do on these BCBC Diary show is talk to people like Matt Miller and Sean Borman and get advice for you. But going in, do you have a hypothesis about what the best way to qualify is?
I definitely want to try to do it through these. Obviously, I want to do it through Horse Player Happy Hour if I can. Just it's a great cause, and it's a good way to qualify with added money. But I also would like to try to qualify through these live tournaments too, because that's the way that the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge works. It's not pick and praise or these $2 win plays. It's you're betting your bankroll into these races. I'd like to try to do it through Del Mar. I know they have the Little Red Feather one, has a BCBC one that's fairly lower budget. And obviously Del Mar is my home track. I'm more familiar with that circuit. So that'd be ideal, but I think we'd got to take a better look at what's coming up in the forecast for as far as what contests are offering the BCBC prizes.
One thing I'd suggest right away, especially if you're looking for action, I don't know how often you play, but the sister site of horseplayers.com, horsetourneys.com, will have opportunities for you potentially to qualify into the other two Del Mar contests that are happening. I think the Little Red Feather one, as you mentioned, LRF Cares, absolute no-brainer. And you want to get in that sooner than later because that one does sell out. But Pacific Classic Day, and then also the one that happens, I think it's the second weekend of the meet. You can find all the information for sure on dmtc.com. I would think about trying to qualify into there if I were you. Is that something that's on your radar?
Yeah, I actually did take a crack at it already. I think a couple weeks ago they had one. The feeder to the big feeder. I think it's, I want to say $400 for each individual feeder contest to the big one. So definitely got to try to pick my spots with those ones. They're more on the pricier side for my budget right now. But definitely want to try to qualify for that one. And that one's challenging. Like I said, the Del Mar one itself, I think it's a $6,000 bankroll. And as I mentioned, the Breeders' Cup one, you're not really moving the needle when you're making these $10,000 bets. But if Friday at Del Mar, you definitely would be with a $6,000 win bet or daily double or whatever it is you're trying to do.
You got to pay attention. Maybe before once you qualify and get in there, somebody who's really good at pool math, who has agreed to help us out on these BCBC Diary shows, Matt Miller might be a good person to talk with, a former BCBC champion himself. Before I let you get out of here, Jackson, I want to ask you about your favorite Breeders' Cup memory. And maybe when it comes to this final show, we'll even roll some tape for it. What's your favorite Breeders' Cup race you've seen?
By far, it's the 2009 Breeders' Cup Classic. I was 9 years old. My whole family were giant Zenyatta fans. We'd been seeing her for a couple of years at that point. And it was a huge test. I mean, you had the Derby winner, you had the Belmont winner, you had the best older horses, you had some good turf horses, you had Euros in there. She didn't want to go in the gate, and then there was the whole, I think it was Quality Road, threw a fit for like 10 minutes at the gate, and they come around the turn, and she's still dead last. And Trevor Denman's like, oh, if she wins this, she'll be a super horse. And as soon as he says that, she starts making her move, and she starts coming, and then she cuts the outside. And we were home for this race. I had a really important soccer game to go to instead of the Breeders' Cup. One of the biggest regrets of my life. But anyway, she comes around, gets the outside.
Give yourself a break.
Yeah, I know. But I'm sure we woke up the entire neighborhood. I mean, we were screaming. It was great. And then she won. It was awesome. I watched that replay probably 40 times that night and woke up early next morning, watched it another 40 times. And it's by far my favorite memory of the Breeders' Cup. She was awesome. She cemented my horse racing fandom for sure for the rest of my life. So
how many times have you watched it since? Another 40 or more than that?
I'll watch it at least 20 times a year. So it's great. Anytime I get a bad beat, I just need a feel good moment. I just go watch Zenyatta's Classic. It's my favorite.
Jackson, we're going to be checking in with you nearly weekly on your quest to qualify for the BCBC. This was a wonderful beginning, though, my friend. Appreciate you coming on with us tonight.
Sounds good, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Next up on the show, very happy to welcome in a young man who has a lot of accomplishments in the handicapping contest space. He is an NHC champion. He wowed us all with his performance at the final table of the World Horse Players Tour. He's also had a lot of success in the BCBC itself. Justin, let's start with that. Run me through the big finishes you've had in the BCBC to date.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. But yeah, I think maybe my first contest of the BCBC was in 2017. I ended up finishing fifth in the contest, and I think it was, I want to say I maybe had a try or something, $1,200, $1,000 try that got me back, I don't know, 70 or 80 grand, and I ended up finishing fifth. So that was one of the first times I really had a cash in a contest. And then recently, 2022, I think I finished 13th. And I think I was around 40 something thousand. And then with a little more prize money, probably around 60. And then this last year, sixth place. And I think I cashed for like 80 something thousand and ended up with like about 160 all said and done.
Not too bad. Of those races that you hit big in the BCBC, which one would you say is your favorite?
Well, so both cashes I had that were big scores were both doubles. So there's 2 races attached to that. In 2021 was Caravel, when Caravel went off at like 42-1 and goes wire to wire at Keeneland. And then I played a double to Cody's Wish, so which is another great story. That was a crazy race. He only beat Cyberknife by a head that day, and I think I cashed for 47,000 on that double. So that one, that's a crazy one. But and then last year I had another double off of No Balls, which is owned by Patricia's Hope, which is a family friend of ours. Ravelli trained the horse, which is a good friend of ours as well. He wins at 12-1. I think I had a $2,000 double off of him to Elite Power, and I got back 82,000 roughly on that one.
Let's go back to Caravel. That was a very clever one. We did have some love for Caravel on the In the Money Media Network. Jessica Paquette, big fan of that horse from the get-go. But I mean, when I look back at that race, I think of, what Golden Pal was supposed to do versus what he did.
Yeah.
What did you like about Caravel going into that race? Or was it really just a question of her credentials were too good to be that big of a price?
Yeah, definitely value-wise, crazy number. And Golden Pal was obviously one of the best sprinters potentially ever. And I did not like the way Golden Pal broke in his previous race, and just thought, hey, these are races where you get crazy value. In sprint races, if nobody breaks perfect, you don't have a chance to win. So I took a shot, but I thought I was taking a 15-1 shot on Caravel, and I'm getting 42-1 on that. So the horse obviously breaks perfect and then goes on and wins 4 or 5 more races again after that. So definitely way too good a value there.
We're thrilled to have you with us on this BCBC Diaries project. Curious to know, do you have a particular plan in mind of how you're going to qualify this year? Are there certain tournaments you have sort of circled on the calendar that you're going to be playing it?
Yeah, in about a week and a half, Hawthorne hosts the best contest, no entry fee. I think on Saturday, they're not giving a BCBC. I think they're giving away NHC only. But Sunday, another $500 contest. I think they're giving away 1 BCBC to the winner. And then they are also hosting the Hawthorne Invitational, which is, I think, 60-ish players throughout the country. And you have to be invite only, and they'll give away a BCBC there. So I'm planning to play that whole weekend.
It'd be great to see how you make out there at Hawthorne. They do a great job, those rules in Illinois, and the fantastic job the team does with having all those prizes added. Definitely one of the ones I would suggest to people to travel to. So you're already, handicapping contest royalty with the NHC win. What would it mean to you personally, though, to be able to add a BCBC to your resume?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way the format is set up, where it's all live money, is how I learned to play the game, which is how most of us have up until horse players, horse tourneys started playing mythical $2 win play. So that's the way I learned how to play, learn how to find value that way, and how I worked my way into the NHC in the first place. I played doubles and tries at Hawthorne, and that's how I ended up getting myself to the NHC. And that's definitely, I would say, more of my forte, but obviously I did end up winning the NHC. So there's that.
There is that. And that was such a great story too. Obviously your father, your mentor in this game. I love the idea that you guys had a disagreement at the final table, and you went with your gut and you got the money. What a great story that was.
Yeah. I mean, the BCBC is something that is unlike the NHC, where you have to qualify your way and there is no purchase price, where there's a lot of people who do, like, what you want to call it, chase the NHC. You're playing in a lot of events, but there are probably way more opportunities than is the BCBC. So I'm not someone who would generally play in a bunch of horse tourneys, horse players type stuff to try to work my way into the BCBC. I think there's not, in my opinion, the way I bet, not a ton of value doing that. So I kind of lean myself more towards the live money contests. And, you have a good day in a live money contest and you don't win a seat somewhere, you still have a profitable day and it still turns out well. So some of the other contests online, you may not have any profitability if you don't win a seat somewhere. So the BCBC seats kind of come along with a good day.
I hear that, and we're rooting for you. We're going to be checking in with you throughout the year. Justin, thanks so much for coming on and joining us here today on Horse Player Happy Hour, and we look forward to chatting with you much more as the season goes on.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.